Isle of Wight. You saw the Isle of Wight when we sailed out of Portsmouth. There are some spectacular rock formations there called the Needles. They trained there, and they trained under the command of a man called Lieutenant Colonel Trevor, who was from the British Royal Marine Commandos. He'd led a number of raids on the islands off Norway, and he came along on the raid with them. They were supposed to assault on both sides of where you see that thing sticking up in the air over there. That is actually a monument to the 2nd Ranger Battalion. They were supposed to come in on both sides. Unfortunately, as they came in, because of the rough seas, they were swept over into this area, so they ended up all coming in to the right of that thing that is sticking up there. In the movie The Longest Day, they show the Germans cutting the grappling hooks that the Rangers had fired as they came in. The beach down there, incidentally, is a rocky beach. It's not a sandy beach. As they came in, Companies D, E, and F of the 2nd Ranger Battalion lost the Company D commander, Captain Slater, and his command group, who were in one of the landing craft. The landing craft actually sank. So those men ended up floating out there in the water. They did survive that. They were picked up later on. It was bombed by American aircraft on the morning of D-Day. It was then shelled by naval gunfire. You see the damage that was done by that gunfire here now. The Rangers landed on the beach over there, and within 3 minutes, the 1st Rangers, what they did was the gunfire had dislodged the edge of the cliff, and the edge of the cliff had fallen down on the beach. This had created a wall of rubble about 45 feet high. Some of the Rangers, when they came in, had aluminum tubular ladders, and they put those ladders together, put them up on top of the rubble, and made their way up the ladders. They then moved to specific targets. Each Ranger platoon had a specific target on this gun battery that they were to take out. Once they had taken out their specific target, they then moved to what they call targets of opportunity. The 1st Rangers to exit the gun battery exited it the way we came in here. They made their way to an orchard which used to be behind us here, and that's where they found the German guns. They then sent for what they called thermite grenades, and they put the grenades in the breeches of the guns in order to weld them shut. The Germans saw them, some Germans over there saw them, and they pushed them back to where the roundabout is, where we came in here. There used to be ditches at the side of the road there. The Rangers took refuge in the ditch, and they held those ditches for a day and a half. In the original plan, they said that when the Rangers landed here, within half an hour of landing here, they had to send a message to say that they'd taken the gun battery, and the 2nd wave of Rangers would have come in to support them. Unfortunately, because they got swept off course, they never got to send that message. So the Rangers, the 2nd wave, did not come in here. The rest of the battalion and the 5th Rangers landed on the west end of Omaha Beach. It took them, therefore, a day and a half to make their way inland and link up with these guys at the top here. So they held on to that entrance to the gun battery for a day and a half.
Wow.
Before they were relieved by their comrades who'd come in on Omaha Beach. I make it sound easy coming in on Omaha Beach. It wasn't. They had to take out a German headquarters building, and it was quite a fight to get off the beach there. But once they got off the beach, they drove inland and linked up with these people. They also had some soldiers of the 29th Division with them. The 29th Division was a National Guard unit commanded by General Gerhardt, and photographs were taken once they actually linked up. A good friend of mine in Altoona, Pennsylvania, Joseph Kern, was a command sergeant major in the U.S. Army, and the former police chief of Altoona was one of the 2 sergeants, Jack Coon, who were the first men to come over the top here. He still had the original D-Day map that he used on D-Day, and when he retired he gave the map to this friend of mine, Joe Kern. There is a story about the 2nd Ranger Battalion that when they were in England, a British major had the idea of putting 100-foot extension ladders in landing craft with a World War I machine gun at the top of the ladder. I never really believed that story, and a few years ago a young Englishman contacted Sergeant Kuhn, and he said that the British major who came up with that idea was his late father, and that he actually had photographs of these machine guns up these ladders, and of Sergeants Kuhn and Lommel climbing the ladders to fire the machine guns. So it was, after all, a true story. They took this out because it was deemed to pose a threat to Force U coming in on Utah Beach and to Force O coming in on Omaha Beach over here. In retrospect, it was an unnecessary operation in which quite a few Rangers died. It was unnecessary because the guns weren't in the casemates, but intelligence told them that the guns were in the casemates because of the wooden telegraph poles. There is a very good book about this entitled Runners Rangers, which you can get in the United States. Okay, folks, I'm not sure what you're doing now.
Oh, there you are, Mom.
Is this the very top where they came up, or over there?
There. Came up right here. Are you?
They do over there. Is that Omaha? Hi, Shelby. Hello, son.
Hi.
Hi, Abby. Westminster. Are you so on our way to Omaha Beach now? We're just at Point de Hoc. Heard Will Kavanaugh. That's the analyst. On our way to Omaha Beach.
Okay. Yo, listen up for just a second. I have a trivia question for you. You ready?
Like I get some good detail and stuff, but my old one, my old one that got splashed.
Like, cameras like these.
My old one showed how to do that. It's like
Like that one. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, if there's Ralph, are we good?
No, just a couple of minutes, please, Fred.
We'll begin by simply turning, facing the two American flags that are behind us. We're going to begin our national anthem. Let's put our hands over our hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a special place. It's a sacred place. And, I want us now give you a couple of thoughts that will help us as we, now the history of this great place, you've heard a great deal of that from Will, and you're going to hear some more. We're going to have another session, so I'm going to leave some of the integral work of history to him. He does such a marvelous job. But as a leader, as somebody who is inheriting into their life the experiences of those who have gone before them, I want to offer you three thoughts. Really, these three thoughts, I hope, are kind of the purpose of memorials, if you will. And number one, it is to help us remember the past. If nothing else happens today, I hope that you are exposed to those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, and then in turn, the sense of gratitude that you have begins to be something that just kind of overflows out of your life. And I hope you remember the sacrifice. When Winston Churchill stood for the very first time and gave his speech as Prime Minister, he said, "I have nothing to offer you but blood, toil, tears, and sweat." In other words, he was framing reality. And as I look back upon these beaches, these 5 beaches that were stormed by some of the most bravest individuals ever to live, I mean, it was all because of the vision of one man that led to a community of courage, a community of people who believed in democracy, believed in freedom. And then, of course, it led to the sacrifice of many, which is why this cemetery is here. But that sacrifice of many led to the freedom of all. And so as we come to this place, we've come to remember so much of the reason. Now, what does this mean as a leader? What do we take away from this? Well, as I was thinking through and praying through our time here, there were really 3 ideas that came into my mind. And one was vision, the other was courage, and the third was sacrifice. So as a leader, if you don't leave here with anything else but a sense of gratitude and understanding the great vision, courage, sacrifice that took place on these beaches, then I think that a lot is done. But we come to remember. We also come to reflect. We come to reflect on the present. And I hope that even after coming here and paying tribute to these great men and women even, who sacrificed or paid the ultimate sacrifice, I hope that as the heart of a patriot that beats within all of our chests begins to grow and beat louder, I pray that you will also be an encouragement to those who are serving our country even today. I hope that's something that takes place here as well. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of coverage right now given some of the conflicts going on around the world in which our military personnel is involved. And so sometimes out of sight and out of mind. But I'm going to ask us to make sure that not only do we remember the past, but we also reflect upon the present and those who are sacrificing for us even today. And then, of course, we come to this place and see these memorials, stand before these gravesides, so that we may also redirect our future. Of course, we know the great adage that those who do not remember history are doomed to repeat it. So what can this place teach us? What can this place motivate us towards as we move into the future? So I hope you'll take those 3 thoughts with you. I'm going to give you plenty of time to spend some
Perfectly straight. Ah.
Do we go down there? He's going.
Who is?
Guys, there's a little more room over here.
This, make sure where I am. Yeah, sorry. This is Theodore Roosevelt, the son of the president. Right? He was the commander of the 4th Division, second in command of the 4th Division that landed on Utah Beach. They landed on Utah Beach actually a mile from the point where they should have landed because of the current. When they landed, the famous thing is, they suddenly realized they'd come to the wrong spot. The whole army had landed, and he was landing with the first wave. And his second in command said to Theodore, "We've landed on the wrong beach." And Theodore just turned around and said, "Well, the war would come to us here. This is where we start our war." So he landed, and as you'll see, he's got the Medal of Honor, and he died a month after D-Day. Reason he won the Medal of Honor is that he stood on the troops were stuck behind the sand dunes, and he was trying to gee them up to rise over them. The Germans were firing at him, and Theodore actually stood on the sand dunes and walked up and down and said, "Come on, guys, let's at him." And that's why he won the Medal of Honor. Okay? You will notice that there is another Roosevelt here. That is his brother. And you'll notice that he died in World War I. He was in the Air Force, American Air Force man. When, as I said at the end of the war, the American people and families were given the option of repatriating the bodies, the Roosevelt family were asked, "Do you want him brought back?" And they actually said, "No, we will leave him in Normandy, but on one condition. Can you please bring his brother over to lay alongside him?" And Virgil was buried in a cemetery, a World War I cemetery. It's about 200 miles from here. And as a special consideration to a very special family, they laid him here. And he is the only World War I grave in the cemetery. That's it. Thanks very much.
Point to Hawk is to the left. Well,
More fearful about that.
why? Oh. Hey, Parker. Oh, look at that bird. Right in front of me. Mike, that's a cool picture right there.
I just took it.
There's the cliffs over there through the trees. Wow. That's the Band of Brothers.
It's Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, one movie I can't watch.
And the real grave is that one right there.
In the chapel. Search for Lafayette Henson. He's counting.
Is it a star or a star?
Star means they're
Look on the backs. There's some on the back. There are numbers on the backs. I don't know if they're related or not. Just spread out and look for Lafayette. Get Jen with it.
Mississippi, June 6th. Ooh, he died on Normandy, on D-Day.
He was shot out of a tree. That's what it was.
How'd you find that out?
The email said that.
Your mother said that.
this guy. It says no, but only together.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, it's not kind of like
Hanson and Cole.
Diego Park, try this one.
Day that I've ever had here. So it's incredible. The Lord just really smiled upon us there. So I want you to take a moment and make sure that you've read through Omaha, material in the syllabus. You may already have.
Right. Can give me some names of them?
All right, now listen, in all seriousness, guys, listen. This is what, and Will's going to share this with us. I don't want to say much because I want to take away from what he's saying. But there were bunkers placed all in and through these grassy hills, and this is what they faced when they came on the beach. They had to go, I mean, so they were walking straight. If you imagine, out of the 27,000, 4,000 of those were killed on this beach. So that's why this is called Bloody Omaha. What they were walking into. Guys, if Mikey's talking to you, if I'm talking to you, and when Ralph gets on here, when he talks to you, you don't talk. So we're gonna find us a spot down here, and we'll get off and eat. I want to take just a couple of moments, and we were not able, because of the location and the craziness of the schedule, to introduce Will properly. And so I'm going to have Ralph do that in just a moment. But I just want you to see a theme that continues to rise to the surface throughout these experiences as we go around the world together. These are very busy people. Will had to travel a great distance, stay in a hotel last night, ride on a bus this morning, all so that he could spend 15, 20 minutes with you on Point to Hawk each group, and then to be here and share with you some more. So I just want you to see this theme that we began to discuss 3 years ago, and that is that our problem is not finding people who are willing to invest in you, military personnel, to train them in the history of what took place on the beaches behind us and the Battle of the Bulge. So you got to know how grateful we are, how much of a privilege it is that he would be here with us. And I wanted Ralph, because Ralph and Will are very close friends, to take just a couple of minutes and to give us kind of the Reader's Digest, if you will, on Will Kavanaugh, what he does, how he serves our military, and how he is probably the most qualified person on the planet to talk to us about the history of what took place really underneath your feet and some of your bottoms on the grass right below us. So, Ralph, would you just give us a couple-minute introduction on Will?
Okay. Will, I've known for good 30 years. He is half Belgian, half English, as I am. He brought up, his mother was a Belgian lady, and sorry.